In this lecture, we will subscribe our event, BatchApexErrorEvent, which is a standard event that Salesforce provides with the help of our Lightning Aura component. So BatchApexErrorEvents only raises whenever there is a BatchApex, which is throwing any error in any of three methods, either start, execute, or finish. So to show the demo, what we will do is we will create a BatchApex and we will forcefully throw an error, and the error is divide by 0, which is very simple to throw. And then we will be using the previous component from the previous lecture in order to subscribe the event, and then we will use the same component to display the data from the BatchApexErrorEvent platform event. We will be displaying into the component. So for this lecture, what I have created a very simple BatchApex, which is implementing one extra interface, which is database.raises platform events. So if we wanted to raise platform events from the database, not from the database, from the BatchApex, we must need to implement this interface. If we don't implement this interface, we don't get that platform event to be published from our BatchApex. So we must need to. This is something that you must need to implement in order to raise a platform event from a BatchApex. Next, what I did is I had a very simple query on my start method, which is saying just give me the account ID and just limit it to the 10 accounts. In the execute method, I'm just firing, or I'm forcefully throwing an error, which is divide by 0, because any number, if we try to divide by 0, we get that error. This is a batch class which is as simple as. You might have any batch class which is as complex as. The only thing that you need to do is just implement this method, implement this interface into the BatchApex, and then try to subscribe your event either using Apex Trigger, using Aura component, Lightning Web component, or any external library like Node.js we did for post topic. We will also subscribe all these events using Node.js as well. Now let's quickly talk about what changes we have made into the previous component. We have created two more attributes. First thing, let's quickly go back to our PPT here and talk about the number 3, which is saying that we need to display the data into the tabular format inside the component itself. That means we have to display some data in the form of table. So for the table, we have inbuilt component in the Salesforce Lightning component library, which is data table. For that, we are using the same concept for the demo also. For the data table, what you need to do is just go ahead to this document, copy these two attributes. These are what we have here inside our component itself, and then copy this particular line as well for displaying the data. This is what we have. If you see here, this is what we have got. Now next thing that you need to do is go to your controller into the on init. As we know, in the table there are headers. So for the headers, we must need to prepare some columns. So this is a variable, this is an attribute that we have created in the very first step. For the table, we are setting some columns over here. So what we need to do is, first thing, you need to know what kind of data our system is sending to us, right? We must need to know what is the data that we are getting from our platform event, which is what is the name of our platform event is BatchApexErrorEvent. For that, what we will do is we'll quickly go ahead and comment out this line from our component so that we don't see the data in the tabular format. And next that we will do is we will put here, we will say console.log, and instead of stringify, or let it be like that, and then we will say event received. Whatever the event we are getting, we are just trying to put inside a console. So we'll go ahead into our Lightning component. We'll refresh that because we have already made few changes. Okay, and then we will subscribe this because this is the event we wanted to subscribe. Go ahead and subscribe it. There is nothing as of now. What we'll do is we'll quickly go ahead into our anonymous window from the debug, open execute anonymous window, execute the same BatchApex that we have created, platform event batch demo, in the chunks of 5, execute this. As soon as we'll execute, we'll get the error divide by 0. There are 2 errors. Get back to our page here. We got this 2 things here. Go to data, and then what we'll do is we'll go to codebeautify.org JSON viewer, and here we will put our code, we will beautify it. Now you can see here under data what we have got payload, and under payload we have got various fields. Various fields like what is exception type, math exception, what is message divided by 0, and then what is phase, that means it is in execute phase, and then we have job scope. Job scope is nothing, it contains the record id inside that particular scope of execute, start or finish. And then we also have some stack trace, request id, replay id. But what we want to display this payload in the data table, every single field, not every single but some of these fields. So what we are doing is here in our component, once we have got this data, either you can just copy this, you can just paste it over here. So you can say what I wanted to display is exception type, and what is the field API name, the exact API name which is here. You can also change the label, but you cannot change the API name. Then what is the phase I wanted to display, phase is date type, for all the type it is text. And then if you have like created date, you can change it. You can say apex async job id, you can also change. You can say stack trace, label can be changed, but the API name should be exact what we are getting, because we are going to use payload in order to display the data. Now we have changed the column. Once we received the data here into the subscribe callback method, once we have got the data, what we will do is we are just getting the data attribute, the value of that data attribute, which is by default null. So we are checking if the value is not in this data list, just initialize an array, because that data will be in form of array. What we said is, and then we said data list dot post. What we need to add in that array is whatever the event we have received. Under that event we have got data, under data we have got payload, because payload is the heart of our event which we wanted to display. We are setting back again the complete data to the attribute called data. And then what we'll do is we'll just go ahead and then remove the comment from our data table. And in our data table we are already saying whatever data we need to display is b.data, and the columns we are saying the columns that we have provided or we have set up into the initialization of our component. Now go ahead and refresh the page, and then we'll subscribe this. So you can see as soon as we have subscribed, we are able to see that there are two lines, because there are two error events that we have got. Why we are getting? Because while subscribing our event, the replay id is -2. Now let's again execute the batch apex. We have got this error, divide by 0 and divide by 0. Let's get back to our page. Here we have got, now we have 4 rows in the component in the data table, which is saying phase is execute, divide by 0, and when it has been created. So that's how you can subscribe your platform event, which is for handling the error of the batch apex. You can also use this component inside the utility, and you can also try to add some buttons over here, re-execute, or you can say retry. There are multiple things that you can have, and with the help of this event you can also build a complete batch apex retry framework, where if there is any error occurred, you can just retry the batch apex.